This is task 8, our heartworm modified knots test. So I have all of my supplies in front of me. I have our formalin, which we get in small samples from one of our outside labs. I have a 15 ml centrifuge tube. I have a 12 ml syringe that I'm going to use to draw up our formalin. I have my blood sample here, and I have a syringe to draw up my blood sample. So I'm going to start with the formalin, and I'm going to draw up 10 mLs of this. And formalin is a carcinogenic agent, so I'm just going to be really careful to get this anywhere. Set that aside, and I'm going to throw this away and cap this. Set it aside. And then I am going to take my syringe and needle. Actually, I'm going to invert this a couple of times just to gently mix it. Draw up 1 cc. I'm just going to put this 1 ml of blood in with the formalin. Before I do the next step, I'm going to go get a pair of extra gloves. Let's set this aside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my thumb over the top of this, and I'm gently going to invert it a couple of times to thoroughly mix it. And then I'm going to switch out gloves. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move over to the centrifuge, and I'm going to put this in the centrifuge. So I'm going to put you on hold for just a sec. Alright, so at our centrifuge, I got a couple samples in here, so I'm going to have to take those out. Draw this aside. That's just the balance. Alright, so these are going to be the only samples in our centrifuge, so I'm not going to mark where they are. Just gently close our lid. And this is going to spin at 1500 RPMs for about 5 minutes. I'm going to watch it on my watch. And that's a little fast, so I'm going to turn it down. Alright, so that should be all set, so I just gotta wait for it to finish. Okay, so we have finished our centrifugation of our sample. So because this is formalin, I'm gonna dispose of this a little bit differently. I don't want to pour it straight down the drain. So I've got just a little specimen urine sample cup here. And I'm gonna decant my liquid right into that. Try not to spill it. And not to disturb our sediment. Just trying to get as much of this off as That's the best I'm gonna get. Alright, and I'm gonna close this up and set it aside so that I can dispose of it later. Alright, and sorry, there's an internet on my table. Alright, and what I'm gonna do is grab a pipette, and then I've got my slides and cover slips. And I am going to take my pipette and actually, you know what, I'm gonna I was gonna mix it up and then add the stain, but I think I'm just gonna add the stain first and then mix it because that'll make it a little easier. So all I need is a drop. This is our new methylene blue stain. You can see it's got a nice blue color. I'm gonna take my sample and I'm just gonna drop 1 drop of the stain in our sample. Set that aside. And then I'm just going to gently mix this up. Should be good. I'm just gonna let that sit for a second. And then I'm gonna take my slide, my frosted end down, and I'm gonna make sure I prep 1 cover slip because ours always tend to stick together. My finger slips. Put that on top. Alright, and then I'm going to take my 1 drop sample and I'm just going to drop it right in the center of my slide. I'll set my sample aside and then I'm going to take my cover slip and I'm going to put it right on top and just kind of let it spread to the outer sides of the cover slip. Alright, and then I'll slide everything aside. So I'm going to start on my 4x power just to get everything situated and see where I'm at. Get myself centered here. Alright, there's my corner. Get that centered. And I'm going to switch to 10.
Hi Sandy, it's carryover. Hollis Vett. How you doing?
And then I'm going to do this one just
no,
the
he's
same as
here.
I did my other microfilariae sample.
No,
I'm
he's
going to
here
keep
with
an eye
you.
and look for
I
any.
just wanted to ask
I'm
you,
not going to see any
because we have
movement,
this
but I'm going to try to look for the
I
actual
know that
worms. So
you
you'll
did a
see them.
sample
Hopefully they'll be
for
dyed a
solar.
lighter blue, purpley
So,
color.
the last
And I
photo
should be able
that
to
she
see
had
them in the
was
cells.
on October
But this stock has been on heartworm preventative, so
I
I'm
just
not
didn't know whether you wanted to
anticipating
do
that
blood
we
work,
should see
check
any.
liver and kidneys and everything at this visit. I was just crossing my T's and dotting my I's so we didn't like send the cat out and be like, oh, I needed to have blood work. I wanted it, and I wanted to check with you first. Everything's going well, eating, drinking, pooping, peeing, no concerns. Okay. Alright. Yep. Yep.
Because we're not seeing any movement, I'm going to take my time a little bit more.
Yep. Well, mission was accomplished today. So we will draw some blood, and what I can do is, it'll probably be a little bit later today by the time Dr. Jill can get you the results because she's in appointments. So I'll have her give you a buzz with those. If not, because it looks like we're straight up busy this afternoon. If not, then she will give you a call tomorrow. Okay? Okay. Yeah, thanks.
So that is negative and no microfilariae seen on this slide. Thanks. Alright, so I just wanted to take a quick minute to discuss the heartworm test that we did, the modified knots test. So with the formalin that we added, it actually kills the microfilariae in the blood, and so they stop moving. So it's actually harder to identify them that way because they don't have the classic swishing patterns that they typically do. So when you're looking at the microfilariae, you can actually misinterpret them as a different blood parasite that we sometimes see. The microfilariae mitis versus it's dipylodomema. Dipylodomema. I think I'm saying that right. I'm really bad at pronouncing them. Anyway, Dipylodomema recondite, which is another parasite that is actually spread by fleas. And the difference is that with the microfilariae from the Dipylodomema mitis, what happens is those are actually pathogenic. They'll cause symptoms. They affect the heart. So you'll often see dogs that are breathing more heavily, they're exercise intolerant, whereas the Dipylodomema, they can be non-pathogenic, so the dogs can be not affected by them, so they won't have any clinical symptoms. And so it's not as severe if they're infected with those. So you need to be able to tell the difference between the two. So oftentimes the Dipylodomema, the head of the microfilariae is a little more blunted. It's more rounded at the top. You'll get the classic, more of a hook shape of the tail, whereas the microfilariae from Dipylodomema is more straight and doesn't have that hook for the tail. Also, the Dipylodomema is a lot smaller, so I think microfilariae ranges around 100 to 300 millimeters, where Dipylodomema is more like in the 30 millimeter range. So you got to really pay attention to size. A lot of times you can use kind of the red blood cells as kind of a judge as to what size you're looking at. But I'm a fan of pulling things up on the computer if I question anything while I'm looking at a blood smear or blood slide. So I just pulled it up quickly on the computer, and you can see here, this is the Dipylodomema. So this has the nice straightness to it. The head is a little more sharp, whereas in the Dipylodomema, the head is a little more rounded. It's got this nice hook shape. You can see compared to the red blood cells, some of the size difference in this image. So that's good. And then the other thing you can pull up too if you question the differences, if you can't remember, is there's always good charts online as well. So you can see these are everything that we just talked about. The head shape, the movements, blunted head, and then the size difference. So 9 to 33 millimeters versus 120 to 300 millimeters. So it's always good if you question anything to pull it up on the computer or get your reference book, and always check it out that way, because you don't want to accidentally diagnose the wrong thing or be treating for the wrong thing. So it's always good to double check. Thanks.